All right, let's get into our first main discussion now. Nigeria is one of the few oil-producing countries, if not the only oil-producing country that refines her crude in other countries and imports it back to sell to its citizens at an exorbitant price.
Sadly, but it is true. But this is despite the fact that the country has 3 refineries, one in Warri, another in Port Harcourt, and then the last one in Kaduna. The Port Harcourt refinery, built in 1985 at $850 million, has a production capacity of 150,000 barrels per day. The Warri refinery, with a capacity of 125,000 barrels per day, was built in 1978 at $478 million. And then the Kaduna refinery, with a production capacity of 110,000 barrels per day, was built in 1976 at the cost of $525 million.
Now, the refineries have continued to produce grossly beneath capacity levels, and despite huge amounts of money is doled out for turnaround maintenance of the refineries, they remain in a terrible state. Reports show that over $1.6 billion has gone into the maintenance of Nigeria's refineries since the year 2000, almost totaling the $1.9 billion spent in building them. Now,
while the actual amount spent on the rehabilitation of the refineries cannot be ascertained, they remain moribund, while some that are functioning at all perform at an abysmal 30% capacity. With the ongoing fuel scarcity now in the country, the need for the federal government to fix the refineries have never been more crucial than it is now. Or maybe perhaps everyone is waiting on the Dangote refinery, just like we said.
That's a big one. All right, we still have Dr. Daniel Kere with us, a senior lecturer at the University of Lagos, joining us to discuss this issue. Now, Dr. Kere, let's get into this discourse now. Refineries in Nigeria, one would say that, okay, they are not functioning well, their assets they're supposed to. Let's sell them. But Nigerians will say, no, don't sell them. But they're still not functioning. Now, what kind of complex situation has Nigeria found itself in the area of these refineries?
Well, the same complex situation of bad governance. Why are they not functioning? They had functioned before. Why now? Why is it that they are not functioning now? Is it that the operators don't know how to operate them? Or is it that we don't have expertise in that particular area? What is the reason? Why is it that the refineries are not functioning? There is crude. So what is the challenge? Is it machinery? Is it technology or what? Is it the know-how? Now, if it's a question of know-how, how were they refining before? Is it that they sacked everybody who had worked in the past and you now brought in new elements who have no idea on what to do with the refineries? And in any case, if that is the problem, those who built them and other countries where refining activities are going on, you can as well bring in expatriates.
There are records.
Why are they not working?
Yes.
I think this is a deliberate, plot.
There are records that
we
have Nigerian petrochemical engineers who are consultant to oil companies in Texas,
everywhere in the world.
So
it's not a question of expertise. It's not a question of human capacity. So this is just a deliberate design. And let me just say this now, because the way these refineries are being operated and the attitude of government towards the refineries, now that Dangote is building, because don't forget that Dangote, his ways and manners, the way he operates, is the type that does not like competition. Check out all his businesses. Is it the sugar business? Is it cement? Eventually, the government will be tempted, whether it's already designed, I don't know, to sell these refineries to him. The moment he starts operating his own, the next thing is that, oh, Dangote is already working. So if he can run his own successfully, why not? That, because he is one of the financiers of so many of the politicians.
But then we can only speculate for now. Anyway,
these speculations are so real because you can read between the lines.
But then it's mind-boggling when we look at figures, thrown out somehow that 1.9 billion dollars was used to build the refineries, and then 1.6 to maintain, and then they are not functioning.
I remember some time ago, Chrome Oil Services, a maker of us company, was actually given the turnaround maintenance of the Warri refinery. And I think it was at the cost of 5 billion naira then. Did that refinery ever turn out anything at all? Did he refine anything after the turnaround maintenance? So they only turn around their pockets. That is what happens. You see, you cannot tell me that these refineries cannot work. It's not a question of government cannot do this. It's always deliberate. Because the same persons who cannot operate them while in government are the same ones who will acquire them, and this is will work. So there's always a deliberate design to ensure that this is
as you are saying in the power sector.
Yes, so that at the end of the day, they will now do, the sharing and in the name of, selling of government assets. Sell them at very ridiculous prices. They will acquire them. These same companies that refuse to function will begin to function optimally because now it is their own. So the question of, oh, we do not have capacity to run these refineries is not the issue at all. This is just a function of, lack of will to ensure that these refineries actually function. But interestingly, the workers, these companies that are not functioning, has never laid off workers. They still pay salaries. So how do you raise how do you get your money? How do you fund them? The NNPC has become a major problem to the Nigerian economy. A major problem. You see, the operations of the NNPC has become so opaque, so detrimental, so dubious, and so wicked, to the extent that, they do all manner of things without, showing any form of professionalism, without showing any sense of competence. Because this is a national asset. People make billions of dollars from the place as individuals, and yet the company, sometimes you hear of insolvency and all the rest. I remember the days of Olivia John, there were such issues of, NNPC has got to a point where it can, these are not the kind of
Nigerians are kind of disappointed, really, because President Muhammadu Buhari, who's the petroleum minister at this time, was in charge of the sector before.
Yes, some time ago. But he wasn't in charge as an expert. The man was just there as a military dictator. Doesn't know anything about petroleum. Does he have any idea? So that he was there, people will only be afraid of his uniform to want to do some things, not because he knew what was going on. All right? So when there are complaints, you just make orders, and why is this happening? In that era, sometimes you will not even be tried properly, that they can just shoot you and do anything. So because of that fear, people do things. All right? So, and that was part of the impression about Buhari. Buhari worked well. Then that was a military era where you bring men. Now, even those who know how to do things, when you bring them on board, because they know that they can circumvent the system and nothing will happen, they do all of that. But in a military environment, you know that if you try that nonsense, your life is in danger. So you want to do even beyond your capacity. I think that was what happened in the days of Buhari. So let's not begin to relate it to now that, okay, because he managed the sector, sometimes
but Nigerians will still ask the question. Yes. At that time that he was functional, even though under military, where, okay, there's a dictatorship or whatever it's called, and he enjoyed the name he has now was gotten from that time. The goodwill he has now was a product of that time. And certainly he would like to leave that kind of legacy for himself and then maybe for his children or for people around him, as the case may be. So what's the difference between the Buhari of that time and the Buhari of now in the area of trying to keep a good name? A lot
of difference. You see, that era, this same Buhari, it's not as if the man is a saint, but it got to a point that the man came to the realization that what do we acquire all these things for at the expense of the life of Nigerians? So they returned some of these things. I remember even Idiagbo himself gave up some of his, properties that he acquired through the other way to government. And having purged themselves, they now had enough courage to deal with every other person in that manner. You see, but Buhari has now come to a different level of politicking. Then it was just governance. Now it is politicking. And you could equally look at how he was funded in the last election. All right? There are some persons that Buhari aligned with that ordinarily people felt Buhari will have no business with. The moment you get into politics, a lot of things take place. A lot of things. Because somebody is taking his money. And you don't have the same philosophy.
You think politics has changed him?
Definitely. Definitely. And beyond that, in that era you are talking about, it was command and control. In this era, it has gone beyond command and control. Now you have to go through due process. You go through the courts. So there are two different worlds entirely. And interestingly too, the man on his own lamented the issue of age. So you can see that there are two different platforms entirely. He doesn't have the energy anymore. Even his thinking would have, to a large extent, diminishing return would have set in. So it can't be as vibrant as before. All this is culminated in what you are getting today. Those who are in charge, the operators of the system today, have a little way of, try to strangulate, to get him entangled. So the man's hands are somehow tied. Don't forget that the wife has equally raised an alarm sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you getting it?
But when they say the Nigerian president is the most powerful in the world, in the context of the powers he has within his disposition, whether he is lying down or he's standing up or he's climbing any tree, he can still give the orders for the system to work in NNPC or the refineries. And so do we still say, okay, he has the powers to do it, and
of course
he doesn't have the will?
No, it's not. It might not be a case of will, self. You see, let's even assume he has the power, which he actually has. All right? You have the power to ensure that things work. How do they work? At what point do you say they are working? Who evaluates the work? All right? Because then the man could move around everywhere. And don't forget how a lot of times these people get reports from those who are very close to them, the immediate subordinates. They don't get the exact reports from the common man on the road. And these people who report to them only tell them what they want to hear. And at the end of the day, that is what they assume is correct. Are you getting it? They don't get the details from the man on the streets. And I even have doubts if they watch all these programs all the time. Maybe he has assistants who will watch the programs. Now, if you are in charge of that program and you are part of those who are creating this challenge, what will you report to the president? You only tell him the system is working. Don't mind this is the opposition who is creating this problem in order to spoil your name. And the president will believe. These are part of problems of politicking. So it has gone beyond the level of a man with a good will who wanted to do, who had all the energy to move around. These challenges you are seeing need to be addressed drastically. All right? And the drastic measures that will address this kind of challenges are dictatorial in nature. Because when you go beyond that and you go through the due process, in the course of this, and don't forget that the law always has one way that these guys are experts when it comes to operation of the system. So they have a way of manipulating the system.
They always find a loophole.
Are you getting it? There will always be one way of doing it. Even if it is glaring that they are going to be guilty, the courts equally sometimes could be used to their own favor, such that before you eventually get judgment, things would have gone out of hand. The worst part of it is that you are fighting corruption where your laws provide for plea bargain. How do you fight corruption in that manner?
It becomes an open window.
Yes, because I can conveniently steal and come and plead that yes,
I'll give you this.
Because at the end of the day, it does not provide for recovery of everything from me. I've accepted guilt. This is what
just began.
I mean, I can return. At the end of the day, the rest that is stolen, I go ahead with.
Thank Dr. Dan Ekere. Well, Nigerians are looking forward to January 2018, as promised by the government, that the refineries will start functioning gradually.
I don't believe Kachiku for anything at all.
Let's wait and see. Anyway, thank you very much.
We have waited and we have always seen, and this is the situation we've continued to see.
Nigerians, there is no choice now but to wait again.
The most important part of this thing is that let there be no increment, because this is how they will tell us the government does not have intention of increase. And at the end of the day, something will happen in the name of, we want to build roads, we want to build this, we want to build that.
But the government has promised. The government has promised, and Vice President Oshimbajo has promised again that there is no such plan. Thank you very much for your analysis, Dr. Dan Ekere of University of Lagos.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Dan Ekere.
Thank you.
Let's go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the challenges in providing electricity and metering system in Nigeria. And all of those, when they talk about made in Nigeria meters, adequate meters and all of that, we'll talk about that. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.